If you have no code, you'll show no commitment, and with no commitment, you'll get no results. Now, this is important because ultimately the whole game is about results. The game of life, everything that we're trying to do, this desire to be and to have more, is ultimately about getting the results that we want from life, whether we're talking in our body, within our being, our balance, or our business. It doesn't matter which category or domain that we're talking about. Ultimately, what we want is results. And those results, of course, are a bigger, better version of what we already have. Because at some level, there's some dissatisfaction, maybe some unhappiness, maybe even pain that's kind of keeping us stuck, but making us want something new on the other side. Now, yesterday I spoke to you guys about the need for us to become more of an icon rather than just settling for the idea of being a man. And the way that we get there, of course, is initially we're here at the level of man. And we're at this point where we're like, you know what? I now want more from life. So in order to start showing up better as a better version of ourselves that's going to be able to achieve more, we need to ultimately learn how to lead self. So I'm now a man who knows how to lead myself and to make myself show up and do the things I know I need to do on a daily basis so that I can build the life that I want. And ultimately, I become a leader of self. Then as a result of that, and I keep doing it and so on, and now my results start to spill and to overflow positively into all areas of my life and then into the lives of others. And ultimately, I ascend to this level of becoming an icon. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by icon, I recommend you go back and watch yesterday's video where I break this down and explain what each of these letters means and so on. And today we're going to dig into the first one because, well, now we've got this icon framework and we're talking about integrity, courage, ownership, and non-negotiables. How do we actually play this out in life? Like, how do I know that I'm living in integrity? How do I know I'm showing up with courage and so on? So when we break this down to the next level and we go, okay, well, I've got this new operating system that I'm trying to implement into my life so that I can build more and become more. How do I do that? Now, the first thing that we need to do is we need to live by a code. Now, ultimately, this is like another operating system. Like we've got the icon framework, that's an operating system. And now the code is the operating system that we use to ensure that we're showing up with this first letter, the I, which is integrity. So in order for me to be integral and in alignment with self, I need to live by a code. Now, what this code is ultimately saying in alignment with being integral is I must learn how to tell the truth. And in doing so, I need to stop fucking lying. Now, we say that because many of us are expert liars. Not just in the day-to-day, I go around lying to everybody and such, and keep committing lies. It's more about the things that we omit, and in particular the things that we omit from ourselves, the things that we refuse to face within ourselves, the things that we ignore and hide and suppress and keep locked up within us, when we know ultimately if we were to set them free, we would be free to become who we need to be. But instead we allow these things to hold us back. So in order to now live by this code and ensure that we're living in integrity, the first thing that we need to do is be real. Now, what does that mean? So we want to be real. Now, what this means is, okay, so I am now going to be ruthlessly committed to truth. Now, I spoke about truth yesterday, and we have to be careful with truth because your truth might be different to my truth. My truth about health and what it takes to get healthy or to lose weight may be different to you. My thoughts, feelings on God and religion might be different to yours. But to you, your version is truth, and to me, my version is truth. So we need to drop a layer beneath just truth and actually get down to what we call the facts. Because without facts, even in truth, there is a possibility we're still living in fantasy. Because maybe our truth is an idea or a belief that we have adopted that is not actually factual. And therefore, if it's not factual, it can't serve as a foundation to build the future that I want. So instead, what happens is when I operate from this foundation that is non-fiction, essentially, the only thing I can really create is fantasy. So we have to get real about the facts. what's going on for me right now in my body? What's going on for me right now in my business, in my being, in my balance? Balance being relationships, of course. Now, until we are honest with ourselves about the facts going on in those situations, all the good things, all the bad things, all the ugly things, we need to do that first before we can create a foundation of genuine truth that we can build our new future from. So first step of living by a code is we be real. And we do that by committing to the facts. Now, our next step is we need to get, I can't spell it, sorry. Let's try this again. We need to get raw. So once we've been real, now we need to get raw. Now, in order to get raw, this now needs us to add another layer of honesty or another layer of facts to the situation. But this time, those facts are wrapped up around our feelings. Now, of course, generally speaking, as men, we have been taught, trained, educated, and indoctrinated into suppressing our feelings. Feelings don't matter. Ignore your feelings. Shut them down. Shut the fuck up. Show up. Be a man. Do what you need to do. Man up. And so on. Stop acting like a little bitch. Boys don't cry and all the rest of it. And to be honest, maybe to a degree, there is some truth in some of that. But the problem is, none of those things are necessarily factual, as in they are not necessarily facts that we need to live by in order to build the life that we want. Because ultimately, if we are suppressing our feelings, and in particular, our feelings about the facts, well, then we're not actually being honest with ourselves. And if I'm not being honest about how I feel, so let's take body, for example. If I'm overweight, tired, out of shape, I'm ashamed and feel guilty about the body I have and the way I've shown up for myself that's led to this body. If I'm not honest with myself about how I feel about having this body that's overweight, tired, worn out, makes me feel ashamed and so on, if I'm not honest about how I feel about that, there is no way I will show up and act in the ways I need to in order to change it. Because here's the catch. We don't act based on what we want. We act based on how we feel. So I want to lose weight is one aspect, but how I feel about me and my ability to lose that weight and my worthiness around losing that weight, that is what will dictate whether I will show up and do the things necessary to actually lose the weight that I feel I don't want. So that's why we need to get clear on what the real facts are and then clear on exactly how we feel about it. So we need to show up and be honest, firstly with ourselves and then with the world around us about what the facts are and how we feel about those facts, which then brings us on to our third step, which is relevant. Now, when we're being real and we're getting raw, of course, we're focusing on facts and feelings, but those facts and those feelings have to be relevant. And not only relevance, we need to identify what relevant action we have or have not been taking in order to build what we want. Because there is a good chance if we've been struggling and so on, we might have been taking lots of action and been engaged in lots of activity, but it may not have actually been relevant to what we truly wanted. It may have been relevant to the fantasy we were telling ourselves and what we thought we wanted, but not necessarily the factual truth of the future we really want to build, because we weren't relevant in our thoughts, in our feelings, nor in the actions that we took, because we wouldn't be honest with ourselves up front. We weren't living by a code. We weren't trying to become an icon. We were happy to just be stuck as a man and live by the rules and confines that society places upon us, whether traditional or modern. It doesn't matter what they are. If they limit you and contract you and don't allow you to show up as the real version of you, well, then there's no way you can ascend to being a leader of self. There's no way you can ascend to becoming an icon or having this operating system where you show up in integrity with courage and take ownership and consider yourself a non-negotiable. So we need relevant. And what about relevance do we need? Well, the thing that we need is relevant focus. So what this means is not only am I relevant in my focus, as in the things that I focus on and engage in daily, but I'm also focused and relevant in how I choose to share my feelings and facts. Because the truth is, when we start to get in alignment with self, we begin to live by a code, we stop fucking lying, and we start living in this way, it's going to rub some people the wrong way. People aren't going to like this new version of you that shows up. Catch is, people don't like the version of you that shows up now sometimes. But quite often we have these things around tribal association, and we don't want to lose connection with our groups and so on. And we're so worried about being accepted by those around us that we show up as a facade, as this version of us that we think they expect us to be, rather than the real, raw, honest version of ourselves. So now we have to not still lie and hide, but be relevant in how we approach these things and address them. Because when I start showing up in my truth, and for example, if I have issues in my relationship that I'm failing to resolve because I'm not being honest about what's going on, how I feel about it, and I'm not sharing any of that with my partner. Well, now if I just turn up tomorrow or today and I go, you know what, this relationship's pissing me off. The way you're showing up is doing my head in. You're not a very good mum. The fact you never fucking have dinner on the table when I get home from work, that pisses me off, and so on. If I just machine gun her and drive by with all of these different problems that she didn't even know existed, but I now dump them all on her because I'm being real and I'm being raw, well, that's not actually going to be a good way to be relevant or focused on our next step, which is results. Because ultimately, this whole game, as I just mentioned, is about results. So if I show up as an asshole and I'm just like, you're this, you're that, you're doing all these things wrong, and you are the problem, well, it might be true in terms of what I think and feel, but it's not necessarily the relevant way to do it or the focused way to do it that's going to get me the results that I actually want. So if I want the result of a better relationship, a deeper, more connected relationship, I want my partner to be involved more, engaged more, I would like, if possible, to have dinner on the table when I get home from work and so on, there is going to be a strategic way I'm going to have to approach those problems that I'm facing in order to get my partner on board with them. So we need to be relevant and focused in our application of our raw feelings and real facts, rather than just randomly and sporadically just shooting everybody down with this new realness and rawness that we're feeling. So we have to ultimately go, okay, well, in order to get the results or ultimately the fruit that I want from my life, I have to first be relevant with my execution of these real and raw facts. So ultimately now what we've got here is a code. It's a way of living. So I show up and first I be real. So I commit to the facts. Once I've identified those, I can now identify with myself, well, how do I feel about these facts? Because I'm now going to get raw and actually allow myself to experience what I'm experiencing. Rather than just see it and perceive it at the level of mind, I will also allow myself to perceive it and to feel it at the level of heart, because that's what's going to give me the full experience of life. So I allow my feelings to be, because they're part of the human experience and we're all here to be humans. So if I'm suppressing it and shutting things down, I'm not allowing myself to be me. And then once I've identified what the facts are, how I feel about them and what I want to do, I now have the opportunity to be more relevant in my action, in my focus, in the things that I'm doing on a daily basis that will then ultimately lead me to the results, aka fruit, that I'm trying to achieve from life. So it seems like, well, you could have just said, stop lying, Ty. But the catch is most people don't realize that they're lying, because what we often don't see is that ultimately we're lying to ourselves on a daily basis. And it starts as simple as, oh, how's things? Yeah, I'm good. And the truth is you're not really good, but we tell everyone we're good because we don't want to overburden them with our own bullshit and so on. And again, relevance says, well, we don't have to spill the beans and tell them all the little problems that are going on and so on. But at the same time, we need to be careful that by telling everyone, I'm good, yeah, all's well, and so on, we need to be careful that when we're doing that and hiding what's really going on, that we're not also hiding it from ourselves. It's one thing to be relevant and to maybe be strategic in who and how you share. But when we're also hiding it from ourselves, that's going to limit our potential to show up as a new version of ourselves. That is the one who is going to be able to get results. So the first thing that we need to do ultimately is get clear on these facts. What are the facts about what's going on for you right now in your life? The easiest place to do this initially is in body. Yes, we have being, which is related to our certainty and our sense of purpose in life. Maybe for some of us, it also includes a connection to God or source or universe or whatever you want to call it. We've also got balance, which is our relationships with our partner, our children, our friends, our family, our colleagues, and so on, any relationship in life. And then, of course, we have our business, which is our ability to make, keep, and grow money. Now, there's a good chance that we have issues in all of those areas, or we might find that some are fucking awesome and the rest are just need some tweaking here and there. But the easiest place, generally speaking, for us to get real, raw, and honest is with the facts about our body. So what is actually going on for you right now in your body domain? What are the facts about your current level of body fat? What are the facts about your current level of muscle mass? What are the facts about how you perceive your body image, for example? So how do you perceive what you have? How do you feel about that? What are the facts about your vision, your hearing, and so on? What about your ability to move, your flexibility, your coordination? Now, we need to look at all of these things, because when we get clear on the facts and, oh, it turns out this is pretty good, this is pretty good, but holy shit, that's terrible, that's terrible, that's terrible, that's not what I want. This one's okay, it could stay the same. Once we get clear on exactly what's going on, we can now be honest with ourselves about how we feel, so we can be raw about how we feel about those facts we've just exposed about ourselves. And then based on this new information and data that we've allowed ourselves to expose to ourselves, we can now choose relevant actions and remain in relevant focus that will get us to the results that we actually want in our body. Doesn't mean they all happen from tomorrow. It just means we can get real clear on, shit, this is where I'm at right now. This is where I want to go into this new body, this fitter, leaner, stronger version of me. So now what is the relevant focus I must have in order to get there? What are the relevant steps that I need to take on a daily basis in order to create these particular results for me? Now, of course, if you want me to break this down in more detail, or you want to jump on a call with me, we can have a chat, break this process down for yourself and show you, and I can show you how it's directly applicable to you and how you can plug this into your life. I can give you the worksheets and so on, so that you can start implementing this and start growing your life across all domains, particularly body, because as I've mentioned to you guys before, body is where we begin. If our body is falling apart and we feel uncertain and unsure and our confidence lacks and we've got low self-esteem because we're stuck in a body that is not serving us, we need to start there. We need to fix the body first, get to a point of confidence and high energy and vitality, so that we can then cascade that energy and that abundance into the other areas of life. As I say, if you want me to dig into this deeper, drop a comment below, let me know. If you have any questions around what we've discussed, you can drop those below too. And if not, I look forward to chatting with you all in my next video. Take it easy, people.